Hi, welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Fix my pill. Today, I want to talk about your safety net and what sort of safety actings do you have in place for your own protection. I am very lucky that I have close friends that look in on me who will come and help me in pretty well any way that's needed. And I'm grateful for that. But they are also the people who need to be told if I end up in the hospital or not answering the door for my healthcare workers that come every day. You need to make sure you have, especially if you live alone. And, I say these people are down in my will and part saying that they can decide for me if I become incapacitated. And I think it's important to remember that even if you're the best diabetic on the world and you never have problems, that you need to have this on your local hospital or chances of where you're going to be taken. It's known on my medical alert, so I think you need to be aware of this. And nowadays we do an awful lot on our own. We don't necessarily are always around other people that know our conditions. Now, my worst diabetic that I needed a safety net for was way back in early 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there, that I was a caretaker of a scout hall. And I had decided it was time to come home. I could do all that I did then. So I went home. So you had to go up, and there was a 7-Eleven, which I worked for 7-Eleven, but not that branch. And I guess I walked into the middle of the intersection or the middle of the street and just passed out. Now, luckily, and somebody must have been watching over me then, there was not a police officer, what was he, a sheriff or someone that's not, he wasn't the police. And he got things rolling, called a ambulance, and I ended up going to the hospital that night. And I can tell you, that was sort of the first one I sort of had a little trouble coming out of. Now, they asked when I was coming out of this, is there anyone we could contact? You don't have it on a list here. And I inquired about it. Back then, it was my mother. And so I said that. But it got me thinking, and I've said this before, about my sister having a list when she was living with her son that said the address, who the doctors were, and such, which I thought that was a great deal. When I went to the binder, it was all in that binder as well. When I finally got a medical alert, I filled out that information again. And it's really good to make sure you have someone checking on you, make sure that you're eating right. And in BC, and the reason why I'm still in bed and such is because this is the coolest room in the house. And I've got the fans going in here and just trying to keep cool. I remember just not that long getting some effects of the heat when I went out to my doctor's appointment. So, yes, diabetes is a concern, and you've got to make sure you have a safety net. Second of all, not only do you have to worry about diabetes concerns, you also have to be worried about things that everyone does. In fact, it's an excellent idea to get the flu shot. If you're not vaccinated for the latest thing going around, you should get the vaccine. Sorry, something's itchy here. Keeping yourself as far away from diseases that will affect you. We all know the flu, but it could be also food poisoning. Things like this will trigger your fight or your flight reflexes. And these are very important. You want to make sure that if something happens to you, people are able to say, yes, I know him, yes, this is what's happened, okay, we'll be there, whatever. Now, what is a safety net? I know I've mentioned in a few of these messages. Well, number one, have a diabetes doctor. Whether you're type 1, type 2, gestational, it's important that you have an endocrinologist to oversee everything else. Now, some cases that can also be your GP, but it's better to ask to be referred to a diabetic doctor. Most doctors do this, but if they don't, get on your soapbox, that's the word I was going to say, your horse, but your soapbox, and then say, I need an endocrinologist. Diabetes Education Center. They're going to be able to say, what are you doing right, what are you doing wrong? Okay. For me, living at home, I have a lock system on the door, which the BC Ambulance and Fire Department know the access code and will only use it if they are called. So, at the Diabetes Education Center, you have a nurse, you probably have a dietitian. If you're type 2, they have classes and, kind of guiding your weight loss or, how to treat. And even if you're type 1, it's an awesome thing to do. Get in there, see what they're doing. Now, you should also have a regular pharmacy. Now, I know years ago, I would just go to any pharmacy that was around. And when we finally moved to a central in a sort of shopping area, there was a drugstore, and I started using that drugstore all the time. And it was really great because when the doctors would normally just call in a prescription and you could go pick it up, they can give more information about conditions that could be affecting your diabetes, what sort of drugs you had filled, and this could also tell an awful lot of information. Now, for myself, living alone and being a diabetic, and right now I'm not really able to stand long and cook, and it's hard to cook from sitting in a chair. So I have a food service, and I've talked about this before. There's, in a lot of places, there's Meals on Wheels. Here, there's Better Meals. There's a whole bunch of these companies that will deliver food for you. Now, they deliver food, so I always know that food is coming in. Don't let yourself get sick and have no food in the house, or treatments. Or I know years ago I would always keep in the fridge a 2 liter of ginger ale and change it out, I don't know, every 2 months or so. And so that if I was sick, I would have something to drink. We did a message, we did information on supplies. You want to make sure you always have enough supplies in your home that if you're sick for a while, you're able to, be able to keep your blood sugars okay. Now, I talked a bit about here in BC, it's BC Ambulance. And what you want to do is to ensure that A, they can get in, and 2, if you feel that you're not able to control your blood sugars and it becomes an emergency, that you're showing ketones if you go high, or if you're having severe lows, then you should feel free to call. It's important that you take care of yourself. You are the leader of this whole team. Now, in the book, it's kind of an older diabetes book, Diabetes for Dummies. They kind of cover this topic with a great way of saying it. It was all about theatrics, who is the director, who is the food services and stuff. That's a good place to start. So we've talked about getting your endocrinologist, having a GP for little things, going to the hospital if you feel that your diabetes is getting away from you and you're showing ketones, or if you passed out and you have no idea why you passed out, then go to the hospital. But the way things are now, don't just go there because you're unsure. Now, again, it's important to have all these things, and I did forget one thing. You should have a lab, and nowadays you can get programs where you can look up what your blood is doing, like how high your sugar was, what your iron ratio, and what's important for you. And your doctor will look at these, and you should learn what each of these tests are and go over it with the doctor. If you have any questions, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. It's important that you feel good enough to relax and have people there to help you. Remember, and this is, I don't know who came up with this phrase, and if anyone knows, let me know. Don't let diabetes control you. You control your diabetes. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye now.